Looking for the latest comic book to add to your collection? How about the last card for that Magic the Gathering Commander deck? Well, the comic book stores got you covered. Shop online at comicbookstore.tcgplayerpro.com or come in person at 30 North Main Street, Glassboro, New Jersey. Pizza people, welcome back. We've got a tempo deck for you today. Hollywoodpizza here, and we're going to be playing some mono blue spirits. This is a deck that got a little bit of a boost from the Explorer Anthology 1 with the inclusion of Mausoleum Wanderer, which is a 1 blue 1/1 flyer. Whenever another spirit comes into play, under your control, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and then you can sacrifice it to counter an instant or sorcery spell unless its controller pays X, where X is its power. So it does add more 1-drops to the deck, making it a little bit leaner. On top of that, it gives us a threat that only gets bigger as we progress the game plan, play some spirits down. And then on top of that, if we need to, essentially it makes it so that anytime an opponent's trying to cast an instant or sorcery, or even, just like removal spells in general on our creatures, with this down on the battlefield, it's at least going to tax them for 1 extra. And if we happen to have like a Supreme Phantom in play, then it automatically is going to be 2 extra that they'd have to play for those spells. But if you haven't seen the deck before, let's go over the rest of the deck here. We have 4 Ascendant Spirits. Essentially, this card is good throughout the game. You can play it as a 1-drop, spend 2 mana, make it a 2/3. 3 mana makes it a 4/4 Flying Angel. 4 mana ends up turning it, still keeping it as Angel, but then puts 2 counters on it. And then whenever this card deals combat damage to a player, you get to draw a card. So it has built-in card advantage on top of that. It's kind of a card that's good early, good later in the game. Just one of your more solid mid-rangey threats. We also have 4 Curious Obsession that help us essentially get some card advantage whenever we place this on a creature. It's an aura for 1 blue. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. At the beginning of the end step, if you didn't attack with a creature this turn, you do have to sacrifice it. So you do need to be careful about that. If you just play it and then pass, just have to remember that the Curious Obsession, unfortunately, is going to go away. But if you're able to land one of your 1-drops and then follow it up with this, it's definitely a good way to get the game started. We have 3 Slip Out the Back, which actually protects our creatures here. It puts a +1/+1 counter on a creature and then phases it out. For 1 blue, you can actually use this on an opponent's card as well, if need be. If you kind of just need to get rid of a permanent for a turn and be able to get back to your turn, swing in for the win, kind of keep that tempo going. On top of that, the main use of this card is going to be that you're going to use it as a protection spell, potentially against any type of removal strategy. We have 4 Spectral Sailors rounding out our 1-drops here. 1 mana, 1/1 flash and flying. And you can pay 4 mana to draw a card. A decent 1-drop, gets in there early. If you need to, you can definitely spend 4 mana and draw a card. So never really dead in that sense. I will have to say, though, it's going to be one of our weaker cards in the deck overall. So you could end up finding yourself sideboarding a couple of these out every once in a while. We have 2 Lofty Denials in the deck as our first counter spell in the 2-drop slot. You get to counter a spell unless the controller pays 1, or if you have a creature with flying, they have to pay 4 instead. So essentially this could end up being like a 2 mana counter spell a lot of the time. 4 Rattle Chains, another great spirit here. It has flash flying. It's a 2/1 for 2. When it comes into play, you get to give another target spirit, or any target spirit, excuse me, you can even target itself, hexproof until end of turn, and then you can cast all your spirit spells as though they had flash. We also have 4 Shacklegeist, which is really, really phenomenal here. It's a 2 mana 2/2. The only downside here is it can block only creatures with flying, but then you can tap 2 untapped spirits you control to tap another creature that you don't control. So even though it can't block, as long as you have another spirit down, essentially you can set up turns where you're able to tap all of your opponent's cards down. 4 Supreme Phantom as well. This is the Spirit Lord. 2 mana, 1/3 with flying, and it gives all your other spirits +1/+1. So it has a pretty good butt, if you will, getting through that stomp. And on top of that, once you start to get multiples, the game can kind of get carried away. The highest mana curve in this deck, though, is going to be 3 mana. And a lot of the times, you're actually going to cast this for 2 or even 1 mana. So it's Geistlight Snare, 3 mana. It costs 1 less to cast if you have a spirit, and then another 1 less to cast if you have an enchantment. So if you happen to have a spirit with a Curious Obsession, essentially on turn 2, as long as you have an additional blue mana, you pretty much can counter anything for 1 blue, which is really fantastic. Rounding out the deck, we have 1 of Brazen Borrow, which kind of helps deal with any type of problematic permanent that may be giving us trouble. On top of that, you get to play it as a 3 mana 3/1 flyer, which isn't bad. It already has flash, so you don't necessarily need a Rattle Chains out. It's not a spirit, so that wouldn't really be any synergy that would be happening, but this card having flash is still fantastic. For the lands, it's pretty simple. 18 snow-covered islands, 1 Otawara, and 3 Faceless Havens. We don't want to go in on all 4 Faceless Havens. A lot of the reason being is that it does cost a lot of mana to activate, but at the same time, we don't want to have games where we have too much colorless mana. A lot of the time, you're mostly just going to be trying to get as many blue spells down as possible and kind of keep the tempo going every turn by playing on your opponent's turn. For our sideboard here, we have 1 Dive Down to give us a little bit of assurance against any type of Recto strategy, anything that's running targeted removal. 2 Fading Hopes, which actually can help save your creatures, but on top of that, you can use that on tokens and any type of problematic creature that your opponent may be having. Let's say you just need to bounce it, end step, get that scry in, or kind of just, like I said earlier, saving your creature is not bad either, and you're almost always going to get that scry. We have 2 Ether Gusts for any type of red or green strategy that may be coming in. It's not necessarily like a hard counter, but it is a really good tempo play at 2 mana, being able to maybe counter a Fable, you know, a Chandra, anything like that. Just a really strong card overall. Cheap spell as well. We have 1 Cerulean Drake. There are different versions that play up to 4 of this card, and it's really dependent on your meta. If you see a lot more red decks, then you're definitely going to want the Cerulean Drakes, mostly because it has protection from red, and it can also counter like a burn spell. It's still somewhat decent sometimes. You can still counter a Thoughtseize if you need to. Goal against command, anything like that. But I think that it really depends on your meta. If you're seeing a lot of red, I know that we weren't seeing a lot of red, so I actually think 1 of this is still fine. It can just be replaced with another, maybe like tempo card, counterspell, anything like that. But I still think just running 1 is fine. We also have 1 of Disdainful Stroke, another counterspell here that's going to get rid of anything, counter anything that's mana value 4 or greater. So you can kind of get a Chandra, Sorin, even some of these invokes that are kind of like running around. Just a really strong card overall for 2. Don't really want to draw too many of that, considering that a lot of the format ends up being leaner, kind of like in the 3 mana and below spots. So just 1, I believe, is fine, mostly because you don't want to get flooded with 2 or more in your hand. We have 2 Unlicensed Hearths, which actually help with the graveyard, any type of graveyard strategies that we need to stop. Essentially, the 2 Unlicensed Hearths and the Cemetery Illuminator kind of help with that, where the Illuminator gets to exile a card whenever it comes in or it attacks. And then on top of that, the Illuminator actually gives us some extra value, or once each turn you can cast a spell from the top of your library for chose a card type with the card that was exiled with it. So you can either cast some extra lands off the top of your deck or some creatures, which feels pretty good. The Hearth is just great overall as well. You know, like I was stating, it gets rid of some cards in the graveyard. And then later in the game, if you need to, you can actually crew 2 and start attacking for quite a bit of damage. To help round out the sideboard, we have an extra slip out the back, essentially kind of just like some more protection for our creatures. A Witness Protection if we need to put this on any type of problematic card, even though it's a 1-of. Having the extra Brazen Bar on the sideboard and just having this kind of gives us some flexibility in terms of what we're able to deal with. And on top of that, Witness Protection is only 1 blue mana, so for just 1 blue, you can kind of target that Kalidas, even a Coma, anything that's kind of just like giving you some trouble. And then we also have 2 Mystical Disputes. Of course, got to make sure that we counter these blue decks. I have seen versions of this deck go up to 4, which is fine. I mean, you know, if that is the type of meta, those are the types of decks that you're seeing, control decks, just blue decks overall, then you're going to want to run more Mystical Disputes. But I also think that 2 is fine, considering that I myself don't necessarily want to fill up the sideboard with a lot of cards that are maybe not going to be as good in other matchups. So if you look at my sideboard, there are a bit of 1-ups for very different specific things. So I think that this deck and the sideboard can kind of be changed up to how you want. There's even other versions that run an additional island, anything like that. But I actually think this is like one of the best decks in the format. I think, though, that it really does take a strong pilot to get the most out of this deck, because there's going to be points in the game where it looks like you're out of it, but you're actually just going to win in the air. Or you can actually set up your turns like in the correct tempo pace, where you do just chip in for consistent damage throughout the turns and are able to just finish off your opponent with no problem, maybe holding up some counter spells, some bounce spells, things like that. But I think that if you're looking for a deck to take to a tournament, a deck to take on the ladder, I think that this is a perfect deck for you. Especially if tempo is your style, maybe like a little bit more like, you know, beat down control type strategy is what you like. I think that this deck's definitely for you. Like I said, it's one of the best decks in the format, and the Anthology just made it a lot better with the Mausoleum Wanderer. But we're going to go ahead and jump into some games and see how it goes. See if we can tempo our opponents out, fly over top for some damage. And it looks like our opponent is going to be on the play for this game. And we actually have a pretty decent hand. It's not anything too crazy, but we have some plays we can make. A protection spell. Mausoleum Wander is kind of like a protection spell as well. So I definitely think that we can keep this. Let's go and see what our opponent is up to. I know that they did take one mulligan at least here. Might still be deciding what to put back. Alright, so they're going to get to keep their 6-card hand. And they start off with a Gildagoose. So it looks like we're up against what could end up being a Rakdos Sacrifice deck. I think we could start off with the Ascendant Spirit. It's a little bit more of like a beatdown threat. A little bit better. So we'll go ahead and see what happens. Definitely expecting to see some Catavans here. Opponent is losing life as well. So, ooh, they actually have a Burning Tree Emissary. Okay. Alright, interesting choice here. Into a Fable. Wow, alright. Heck of a turn for our opponent there. Couldn't really do anything about that, seeing as how we didn't have any mana available here. So let's go and get a Wandering, Mausoleum Wanderer down. And let's pass it back. We can't block with the Spirit efficiently, so we're going to take some damage here. And the opponent is potentially going to have a Reflection of Kiki-Jiki flipped over here in a moment. So it could be a bit threatening. Slip Out the Back does protect our creatures in case they do try some type of removal spell shenanigans. And unfortunately, we are going to have to take 4 damage here. Opponent does get a treasure as well. And we'll go ahead, just take it. So even though we're taking a bit of damage, we're actually tying it up considering that they dealt themselves damage as well with their own mana. So it looks like they have another Burning Tree here. Could make a food off of the goose or play a spell from their hand. Let's go and see what their options are here. Looks like they're going to try to kill spell, but we do have a slip in the back, slip out the back. So we will cast that, protecting our Mausoleum Wander. It looks like they might just go for a food activation of the Gildagoose here. Yep, just going to do that. We'll get to untap. We have a Shacklegeist. So Supreme Phantom blocks pretty well. Shacklegeist can tap some cards down. I think we'll just go with Supreme Phantom here. And another Mausoleum Wander. I actually like just coming in for 5. You know, really put some pressure down on our opponent. And we still have some decent blocks. We can trade with the card, maybe even block with the Phantom if need be. They don't get to use the Reflection yet. Right now, we're only really staring at 6 damage is what it's looking like. So even if they have like a damage spell, they probably would have used it by now. Let's just block here. We could take another 4, go down to 12. Opponent does have 1 card left, so if it's like a damage spell, so it looks like they have a Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize is going to get rid of Shacklegeist. They can pay for either Mausoleum Wanderers, so we do have to let it resolve here, unfortunately. But we do have quite a bit of damage on the battlefield already. Opponent is at 9. And we draw another Supreme Phantom for the victory here. So even if our opponent can block, let's see here, 6, 7, 8. So we only deal 8 because they can block here. We're at 12. So we have to think about what we want to do. This actually pumps this up as well. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, I think we're actually fine. Yep. So get to pump both of these. Even if they block this Mausoleum Wander, we should be able to get in there for damage. Yep, just going to pump these up here. And our opponent's going to concede. So we actually got there with a bit of some tempo, even though our opponent had an actually really good start. It looks like they are playing a good amount of red cards, so I think that the Cerulean Drake is actually playable. The thing about this card as well is that you can counter like a Thoughtseize, Kolaghan's Commands, anything like that. I think we want the other... Let's think about this. So they're playing... I think we want these maybe over 1 Lofty Denial. I really do enjoy my Lofties. Let's take both of these Spectral Sailors out of the deck. Brazen Borrower is okay, not really looking like the greatest card. I think that we want one of our other protection spells, potentially just like another Slip Out the Back here, or the one of Dive Down. The good thing about Dive Down is that it keeps the creature in the battlefield, so we're actually able to block with it. I think I would rather play the Dive Down over the Slip Out the Back, just because we're not necessarily like really trying to use this on like some of their threats, even if it's early. And like I just stated, if we want to block, we'd rather just have the creature stay in play with the dive down. I think that the rest of our deck is actually looking pretty decent here. A couple Ether Gusts is pretty nice. I think we'll just go ship this back. Hope to kind of maintain that tempo. Definitely what this deck likes to do. All right, so we can definitely keep this hand. We have some creatures. We got some lands. Not necessarily like the craziest tempo plays, but at the end of the day, having a curve like this in this deck is still fantastic. So let's go get the Spirit down, see if it runs into a Fatal Push. Looks like opponent does have it, as there is a stop in the game here. There is the Fatal Push. Probably start off with the Mausoleum Wanderer to protect the second Ascendant Spirit, and then jump into the Supreme Phantom on turn 3. Opponent does have a Mausoleum, or excuse me, a Blood Tithe Harvester here. So they are going to get to kill one of our cards. If we play Phantom, there is a good chance they still kill it. And then they just have Blood Tithe Harvester. I think I would rather just get this down and the Mausoleum Wanderer. And let's see what they do. If they just trade off Blood Tithe, I mean, I think that's okay. A little bit mana flooded, I would say, this game. It looks like some of the problems with this deck end up being whether or not you get mana flooded or mana screwed so far in my time playing it. I do think that Jund Sacrifice is one of the top decks in Explorer. I think in Pioneer, it looks more like a tier 2 deck. But I think because we're not seeing some of the other decks available in this format, that's why you do see a lot of Jund Sacrifice on the MTGA ladder. It is a very popular deck, and I do consider it to be one of the best decks in the format itself. So it looks like our opponent had the Burning Tree Emissary again on this turn, but all they can muster was a Gildagoose and a Blood Token activation, so not really anything too crazy. A little bit upset that we're drawing this Rattle Chains without being able to play it, but Supreme Phantom is a pretty decent blocker for the Burning Tree. Let's go ahead and see if our opponent drew a removal spell. So it looks like they have Burning Tree into potentially a Fable here. Okay, another Blood Tithe Harvester. So they can't kill the Supreme Phantom yet, and we can block their Burning Tree. That was actually a really good draw as well. Let's see. We can actually bounce the Blood Token if we really wanted to, but I actually think it's a lot better to hold up the Rattle Chains, because let's say they get another Blood Token, then I really want to get them with this Rattle Chains here. And that's only -2. So it isn't going to kill our Phantom. We're okay with doing that. And then let's see if our opponent has a follow-up play. And they're actually saying, oops, so they just a big mistake there from our opponent. I think that they thought that they had the second Blood Token, but we used that earlier this game. So just going to take 4 damage. Not ideal, but you know, we're still keeping in parity here with the damage on the battlefield. And they actually get an Ob Nixilis down, which is a bit annoying. Okay, that's fine. I think we will play this Rattle Chains because it actually kills one of the Ob Nixilis. Could bounce the token, but I don't really think that that's really that great. Discard an island. Yeah, that's fine. I'm not like... Still not the biggest fan of that play. We do have the Gildagoose to block. We hit a Wander. We could activate the creature land and attack. So we attack this here with both of these. Then they have to block. Attack this. Block here. They could finish it off, which is a bit annoying. What do we want to do? I think it's okay. I mean, we could activate this. They're not blocked. I could block that. So it looks like our opponent's just going to concede. So I think... normally I don't really look too much at the battlefield here, but let's take a look. So I think that it still was okay to do this because they can't kill the Rattle Chains. They can't block with the 1/1 token. So I think we still activate the Faceless Haven. And then we use both of the bigger creatures to come after the Ob Nixilis, so then it makes them have to trade off both of their actual permanents. And then we get to kill this one. And then they'll be down 2 more cards, and then all they'll have is this. They can uptick it to make us lose 2 life, I believe it is. And then we'll still get to have a Mausoleum Wanderer. If we draw any spirit, it gets bigger. We still have the creature land, and all that they would have left is just this Burning Tree and the Ob Nixilis, which essentially will be dying on the following turn. So I think the opponent kind of saw a little bit of the writing on the wall. We were able to take down that match. Jumping into some more games here with some mono blue spirits. Let's go and see if we can keep the tempo going here. And this hand is okay. I think that we can keep it. It's really awkward. We're on the draw, but I don't think that I want to mulligan this. We have a Brazen Borrow that actually keeps up with the tempo. Excuse me. We have a Brazen Borrow that keeps up with the tempo, so let's see if that's enough. Does look like we're up against like a mono green type strategy here. It's either going to be the Planeswalker deck or Stompy, and it actually looks like it's a ramp style deck, so we can play Supreme, Phantom, or Rattle Chains. I guess I'm okay. At the end of the day, I'm almost okay just holding up the Rattle Chains and the Brazen Bar in case they do play like a problematic threat. Let's say they play like a Karn. Okay, they do have Wolf Willow. I guess with Karn, we would rather kill it in the air. So if they play it... Another Cultivate. Sure. That's okay. So they have 1 green mana open. So opponent is ramping quite a bit here to something massive. Let's get this Rattle Chains down. Let's slap a Curious Obsession on it and start the beats and the draws. And get our opponent down to 17. Get a nice redraw here. Shacklegeist, decent card. Let's pass it back. We can hold up the Petty Theft in case they do end up playing something huge that we can just bounce. Vivian. Okay, Vivian's not bad. It could uptick here, which doesn't really do anything all crazy, though, in all honesty. Topiary Stomper, 4, 5, 6. So Topiary Stomper still can't block, or excuse me, attack or block. So they could play the Stomper, try to use the Vivian on the Rattle Chains, but then we just have the Brazen Bar for the Topiary Stomper. But they're not even doing that. They're just going to bounce the Mystic. Can we kill this card? We can if we play... I'm wondering if it's worth it to just bounce the Mystic, and then we could play a Curious Obsession plus a Supreme Phantom, kill the Vivian. Could also bounce the Stomper. I don't think that I like bouncing the Stomper, though. Let's just bounce this. It saves us some life. It also sets our opponent back quite a bit. They're not able to recast this Elvish Mystic right now. I think it is a lot better to just try to kill this Vivian on our turn. And we actually don't have to spend the other Curious Obsession now, which I like quite a bit. So let's go ahead and play these Supreme Phantoms. Hit the Vivian for 5. Pass the turn back. So we actually have quite a bit of threats in the battlefield. Opponent's playing mono green. There's definitely some cards that they could have that give us a bit of trouble. Nissa, not necessarily one of them. Storm the Festival. So it looks like they are playing the big green here. This deck is actually a lot more popular in Pioneer, as there's actually different options for the deck that help it. Ooh, Golos is pretty scary, though. We do not like to see that. So they get a World Tree into play. They're going to be able to activate this Golos. I don't believe that they can activate it yet. Could be wrong here. And they're just going to come in for some damage. Just 4, no blocks. Can also kill the Nissa if need be. Let's see what we draw and then think about our options. So right now our opponent can't block what we have on the ground. Slip out the back. Okay. That does protect a magic card. So we put this on the Rattle Chains. We can kill the Nissa. Is that worth it? Probably. Brazen Borrow is pretty good too. Could Shacklegeist and then just Brazen Borrower on their turn. Shacklegeist tap their creatures down, take some damage, and then come in for big. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 13, so we'd be looking for 4 damage. This is 3 plus the Curious Obsession. Or we just come in now for lethals, or for just like a lot of damage. 6, 10, 13, 14 damage coming back potentially. This has to deal combat damage to a player. Yeah, we have to just... I think we have to do this. We have to kill the Nissa. It's a little bit annoying, but I think it's just necessary. Let's play the Shacklegeist as well. Let's deal 6 here. 2 damage to our opponent. Put them down to 15. They have that. That's fine. We can actually get this Brazen Borrow down, which is really sweet. Problem is we're only getting them down to 15. So is what we have enough to kill them? I don't think that it is. Let's pass it back. So they can't cast another Storm the Festival or activate this Golos a couple times. And they also hit a Castle Garenbrig. Alright, let's see what our opponent can do here. Still have quite a lot of damage in the air. We theoretically have, what, 16 damage coming back? Might have almost wanted to attack them last turn just because we would have dealt them more damage, but I still think this is okay. Oh, they hit a Ulamog. Ulamog can't block flyers. Ulamog cannot block flyers. So what are they going to target here? So they're potentially just going to target the Shacklegeist and the Rattle Chains. So let's see what happens. So they are gonna target both. So I actually think we'll just tap that down. Slip out the back on the Rattle Chains, phase it out. And Ulamog is going to resolve. So we are going to get to take quite a bit of damage here, unfortunately. So it looks like that Golos activation was able to get us there. The Boseiju actually ends up saving them because they wouldn't have had enough mana to get all these cards down. Yep, we're going to take 10, go down to 6. So we cannot take an Ulamog hit. Our opponent's going to activate Golos yet again here. Okay, just hitting some more permanents. And we're going to get a redraw with this Curious Obsession at least. Okay, Wolf Willow, sure. Brazen Borrow doesn't really do anything because it doesn't block. It's just going to end up being a really good attacker. It looks like our opponent's just going to go as wide as they can. And we're just going to come in with this Rattle Chains to see if we could potentially draw something that we can use here. Any kind of bounce spell would potentially keep us alive. And we just hit an island, so we do have to concede game 1. A bit of a tough game there. I felt like we were in control for most of it, but that Boseiju really nailed it down for them so they could just have like a really big turn, because they would have just probably been able to activate Golos once there instead of, twice. That did end up being the difference. I think that Ether Gust is really, really great here. Just a pretty decent counterspell. Disdainful Stroke is fine. Don't necessarily think Brazen's all that crazy. Like, it can be okay, but it's not a game-ending card. Fading Hopes are okay. Maybe even the Dive Downs. I don't think so, though. So a lot of what they're doing is just some ramp. Let's see. Do we just want like the Mystical Disputes just to have some counter spells? I think I'm okay with the Ether Gust, the Disdainfuls, and the Lofties. Spectral Sailor is a little bit weaker. Would we rather just get rid of that? Slip out the back is okay. It can exile a card. Maybe we wanted to slip the Golos out the back as well, but it would have been on their upkeep, so it wouldn't have really done as much. I think it's between the slip or the spectral. I think we can cut one of these. Let's try this out. Maybe they're bringing in removal. We'll see. We'll see what they're doing. Definitely want to get on the right side of the tempo here. Yep, we'll go keep this hand. Mausoleum Wander into potentially Rattle Chains or Supreme Phantom here. It's looking pretty good. Maybe we just play the other Mausoleum Wander. Okay, Llanowar Elves is fine. We know that they can't play anything else. That's going to be 4 mana next turn, so that's good. Pump this up to a 3/3, hit our opponent for some damage, and get to draw a card. Alright, now we're just mostly looking for some lands to be able to get to turn 4 to double spell. We don't hit it, but we do have a Supreme Phantom here, so they might have a Boseiju, which is what they had last game, but we have quite a bit of damage either way. So we're really hoping that our flying threats just get us there, whether or not they're drawing cards. And it looks like we're going to go ahead and get our opponent down to 10 already, getting to draw a card here. We do hit an island, so we'll definitely play that. And our Mausoleum Wanderers can essentially counterspell any type of instants or sorceries that they might get down. And we were actually able to just take that game down in a quick fashion there. Let's see here. I don't really think that we want to make any changes. Pretty happy with where we're at. The only thing, like I said, is maybe the Mystical Dispute, just to have some extra counterspells. But you saw in that game how hard it is sometimes to have, even up to 3 mana. So I think we'll just keep it like this and hope that our tempo is enough to win us this game. And we'll definitely keep it here. If we don't have a 1-drop, which is a bit unfortunate, maybe we can draw one. Opponent has had their turn 1 plays every game so far. And we do draw a 1-drop, but it's not one that we can actually cast out. So we're actually in a little bit of some trouble if they cultivate. Okay, that's fine. We'll keep up the Lofty Denial and then the Geistlight Snare for their 2 back-to-back plays. I don't think that we want to play a Spirit yet. I really want to hit a 1-drop Spirit to be able to hold up this Geistlight Snare. And it does look like they're going for something here. So they have Wolf Willow, that's fine. And then let's see if they try to hardcast something else. And they play another Wolf Willow Haven, so that's all good. And a Topiary Stomper. I think we will Lofty Denial this, so that it doesn't ramp them and they get a threat. And we hit a slip out the back. That's okay. Still think we want to hold up the snare. And then next turn we can start the Spirit beat down. So let's see what kind of spell they have. They have a Cavalier Thorns and they cannot... Oh, they can actually pay for it. It does tap them out though. Ooh, that is quite a bit annoying here. I think we have to let that resolve. So they're going to get a 5/6 with reach. The good thing is that we do have a Shacklegeist, which does help us tap it down. Alright, so let's get to our turn here. We'll play an island. I think we'll play the Supreme Phantom. It blocks a little bit better. And let's pass the turn back. Still want to hold up the snare. Not really trying to take a chance by tapping out here. They had a turn Timber Symbiosis, but they can still pay for the snare. So, you know, definitely a bit unfortunate here. Our counterspell's not really doing anything this game. Kind of getting a little bit burned for actually playing the Flash style with this deck right now, which is a bit unfortunate. And they do hit the Kogla, but we have the slip out the back, luckily, to save. Our Supreme Phantom. Opponent's probably coming in for 5. They have quite a bit of damage here. Yep, coming in with the Llanowar Elf as well. Really in a tough spot, but not unwinnable. So let's make this a 3/5. Let's come in for damage, get a good redraw here, hopefully. Alright, we did not. We do just have to play this Shacklegeist, which actually can't block. And we might be dead here. Really hoping to draw an extra Spirit, but it looks like we just ended up getting flooded out this game, unfortunately. Yep, and they do get to kill the Curious Obsession, so we're getting burned a little bit more there. at 2 life, and they can just make a wolf, a couple wolves if they need to. Yep, just gonna make a wolf here. And I don't believe that there's any card in our deck that's actually going to get us out of this situation, but still going to give ourselves another redraw to see what happens. And we do just hit another land, so we got a bit flooded this game, which is a possibility with this deck, but, you know, it's all right. I still think that we had a pretty good game against that deck. I think we just got a little bit unlucky there at the end. Flashing in some spirits. Maybe having a curious obsession about drawing cards. We'll see. See what we can do. And we do have the curious obsession. We're on the play. I actually think we can keep this hand. It's pretty decent. Go ahead and see what we're up against. I don't mind just leading off with this, considering that we don't really have other good options outside of it. I get a feeling that we might be up against Rakdos this game. See if they have a swamp here for us. Maybe they just kill the Wanderer because still a pretty good play. Okay, Leonin Vanguard. So we're up against potentially flat life gain. So I'm going to get this Curious Obsession down. We'll come in for 2 with the Wanderer. And because we have an enchantment and a spirit, we actually get to hold up this Geistlight Snare for their second turn. So let's see if they have like a Pride Mate. Okay, just another Vanguard. We're okay with that. And Legion's Landing. If you control 3 more creatures, yep. I think we'll go ahead and counterspell this Legion's Landing. Don't want our opponent to gain 2 life here. We'll take a damage. And can play the Otawara. I will main phase the Sailor because it's just more damage on this turn. We'll come in for 3 again, putting our opponent down to 15, getting an extra draw. And we'll hold up this Lofty Denial and or a Petty Theft. Okay. It looks like they do have the Primate. I would rather Lofty Denial that. I think they just have 2 damage here, putting us down to 17. Okay, Healer's Hawk's pretty good. It can block one of our cards, and opponent does gain 2 life here, so little bit of a problem now, but still manageable. So I actually think I'm okay putting the Accession here. We'll come back for 4, maybe drawing a couple cards. And let's see what we can hit. Okay, slip out the back, and I was really hoping for a land, and we did hit it. So let's pass it back. Holding up our instant spells. They have Elsaid of Life's Bounty. That's fine. I'm going to try to bounce this. Okay, that does resolve. And this is really weird. But let's see. Yeah, I'm actually fine doing this because either way, they won't have 3 creatures. And I don't want to put a counter on this because of lifelink. Where's this? Where's this one? Okay, the Hawk. Yep. Still can't block, and we have the Geistlight Snare. Let's play Phantom. We'll play another Phantom. And we'll get to come in with both for 10 damage here. So they kind of do have to block. Looks like they're not. We'll get to draw 2 cards. And let's draw another one here. We did draw the land for the Geistlight Snare. In case we get to counterspell something. Still a possibility. I mean, they have 5 lands, which is quite a lot. We'll get to gain a couple life. And our opponent's going to scoop it up. So we'll go ahead and take game 1 down. And let's see what we have here. So they're just playing a white deck. Not really anything too crazy. Let's play a couple Fading Hopes. The other Brazen Borrower. Do we want the Illuminator? I don't think so. Maybe the Witness Protection. I don't really think I want to waste my time with that, though. Let's get rid of a Sailor. And I really do like the Lofty. Let's get rid of another Sailor. So 2 Sailors. Wander isn't the craziest card, but it does get a lot bigger as we play more spirits. Maybe we do cut the Lofty because we're on the draw. Let's do that. Like, it's not like a crazy card against tempo. Or, excuse me, against aggro, so maybe wanted to cut the other one for the slip out the back, because slip out the back can target something on their side. I think we do have to mulligan here, and we can definitely keep this. Let's put back, I think, the Rattle Chains. Yeah, let's put back the Rattle Chains because these Fading Hopes give us some scries. Okay, Speaker of the Heavens, sure. Just go get Mausoleum Wanderer down. They hit like a Pride Mate. We can just bounce it. Oh, Luminarch Aspirant, that's pretty good. Can still bounce this card if need be. So we're not hitting the cards that we need to hit, which is a bit unfortunate, but let's pass it back. So we can bounce the Speaker with this Fading Hope. Okay, a Johnny's Welcome. And Alsaid, that's fine. If they had the land drop, then it's going to be annoying, but it doesn't look like they do, so they're going to pump that up. Sure. Let's bounce this first. On the bottom. Bounce this. On the bottom. Alright, we actually do something really good. So let's get this Faceless Haven down. Come in for 2 damage. And pass it back. So we're potentially going to get this Ascendant Spirit all the way up is the game plan now. We don't really have anything else going on, so it seems like that's pretty much it. If our opponent wants to just recast their cards, we don't really care about that. So they're going to get a Speaker down here and maybe another 1-drop. Yep, Healer's Hawk seems pretty good. And let's see if they attack. They do not. Let's go pump this up to 2-3. And let's see, this is a 4-4. Yeah, I think I'm coming in with this. See what they do here. So they're just going to chump block it maybe. Yep. Just going to pump it up to a 4-4. Then it turns into, put 2 counters on it. So it turns into a 6-6 flyer. That seems pretty good. The Primate's going to be pretty big. We can take this 1 hit here and then do some other stuff here. Probably start blocking the Primate. But I think that we're just going to try to outrace him with this card. We get to draw an extra card here. Fortunately, not something we can use. Yep, another Pride Mate. It's going to be pretty big. Seven, 8, 9, 10. Yep. Gonna go down to 5. They go back up to 21. Their Pride Mates get way bigger. We hit a Shacklegeist. That's kind of hilarious, actually. Let's attack with our Ascendant Spirit. So we get to redraw a card, put a counter, or excuse me, just redraw a card. So we hit 2 more spirits. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. Alright, let's go get this down too. Alright, pass it back. I don't think that we can win from this board state, but it's not out of a possibility yet. Okay, a Johnny's Welcome, sure. And a Healer's Hawk, so their cards are going to grow a lot bigger. Sure. The Johnnies get bigger. They go back up to 17. 17, excuse me. Tap this one, block here, take 3. Yep, coming in. I don't think that we can deal 20, but it's worth a shot. 7, 10, 11. They still have 2 blockers back as well. Yep, all the triggers for the Johnnies. And let's go here. We had a Curious Obsession. Attack with this. They have the Healer's Hawk. Yep. Yeah. We could have tapped it down with the Shackle Guys, maybe got in, but then that's like all of our blockers, or yeah, all of our blockers anyways. Let's see what we could do. Do we want the other slip out over the Lofty? I don't think so. I still think this configuration's fine. Might have just got flooded that game. Not enough tempo. Maybe didn't draw the right answers at the right time. See if we can take down game 3 here. Against mono white life gain. Yep, we can definitely keep this hand. We have some answers. We have some spirits. Probably play the Shackle Guys. Let's go see what our opponent plays here first. Yep, and they do hit a Speaker of the Heavens, unfortunately, but we have some cards. I think that we pass. Counterspell whatever they play. Or maybe even bounce it. Just bounce this. We actually don't even need to bounce the Speaker. We can actually just pump up the Spirit if need be. I'll say... Yeah, let's get rid of that. I actually think we get rid of that. It's awkward because obviously it's like a 1 mana card. Maybe they attack with the Speaker. I might trade... maybe this is the only attack they get in. Let's just leave it at that. We get a Shackle Geist. We can leave this up and Fading Hope. Let's pass it back. So now maybe the Spirit game plan works. We're going to find out here pretty soon. So they have a Fateful Absence. I think we'll just bounce it back to our hand and put that on the bottom. So that is not going to happen. It's Fading Hope this so they don't get the trigger off the Vanguard. Ooh, I kind of like that. Kind of do like that. Okay. So I actually think we'll Supreme Phantom and Spirit. Then next turn we can Shackle Geist plus another Ascendant Spirit. And right now we got some pretty decent blocks, even if they play another creature. Ooh, Baffling End's great though. It's a really good card because they're going to be able to Speaker of Heavens here. So we might have to block. We can take the 4. We don't want to lose our Spirit for nothing here. So our opponent is actually getting the right draws here that they need. Okay, Spirit. And... I think we just pass because we can block the Leonin Vanguards by activating our Spirit. Ooh, Healer's Hawk's pretty good. It can block and gain some life. And they do hit a Luminarch Aspirant here. So it does look like we are... Yep, gonna have to do something about this. Can only attack for 3. We'll go down to 11, sure. Pump up one of these spirits. We hit a land, and we have Shackle Geist. Alright. Well, we're gonna have to pass it back. We can use our Shackle Geist to tap their creatures down, which is fortunate. 1 card left. We'll see if it's a card they can use. And unfortunately, it is a removal spell. So let's tap down. They're going to go up to 27. Let's tap this down. So they can't use it. Yep, this dies. We get a clue. And all their creatures are going to get bigger. So it looks like we might go down to the life gain deck here. They had a pretty good start in both of these games. And I think we just block here, take the 6, or excuse me, the 5. And they are going to go up to 29, so we're really looking for something that we can play. Spectral Sailor's okay. We can still block with the Ascendant Spirit. And pump it up. So let's end the turn. Let's tap this down with both of these. Actually, this turns into a 3/3. Yeah, let's tap it down with both of these. And I'll let them draw. So really hoping to hit Another Lord here. Ooh, Baffling End's pretty good. They're able to target the Shacklegeist. So we don't have that available anymore. And they're going to pump up the Healer Hawk. Yep. Come in for some damage here. We'll pump this up to a 4/4. Block the Vanguard. Actually, yeah, let's block the Hawk. Hawk flies. I'd rather just get rid of that. We're at 3. Opponent's at 33. It's not looking the greatest, especially considering they're going to be able to make some angels here. Okay, we just hit a land. So really, really unfortunate there. Let's pass it back. So definitely in quite a lot of trouble here. They're going to get to make an angel. They can pump it up. Yep, they get another Speaker of the Heavens. Yep. So we can pump up this Spirit, which is okay. Definitely in quite a bit of trouble now. Really need like a Brazen Borrower to help get us out of this game. Let's pump this up. We hit Rattle Chains. Not really the best card right now. And we're just going to have to pass it back to our opponent. So we can make this a 6/6. Still can't really battle with the Angel. We can trade with it. They have 2 Speaker of the Heavens. It's going to be really difficult to get out of this game, I believe. Sure. Get some more Angels. Yep, going to make that a 6/6. We have to block with something. Does it have Vigilance? Just a flyer. Just another Rattle Chains, sure. See if we can do something here. We hit a draw, but not the draw that we need. We can make some blocks, but I think that the Speaker of the Heavens, unfortunately, is going to get us here. So, bit of a tough game 3. I think we had a pretty good start, but we ended up losing that one. So, let's see if we can rebound the next match. Pizza people, are you enjoying the content? Don't forget, subscribe to the channel. It's free. Hit that bell icon as well. That way, anytime any of our new content comes out, you're able to see it right away. Hey, leave a comment down below as well. Tell us what you're going to play in the next event, or tell us what you're enjoying about the video. Don't forget, check out the description too. We've got tons of great content down below. And on top of that, we're going to have our tournament schedule too. So get in on it. Hope to see you. Jumping into some more games here with some mono blue spirits. See if we can out-tempo our opponents here. Going to be on the draw. Bit unfortunate, but see if our opening hand is good. Ooh, a couple Faces Havens is a bit problematic, but I do think that we can actually still keep this hand. We do have a Mausoleum Wander into potentially a Lofty Denial or a Geistlight Snare, which I think is pretty good. We do draw the second Islander, which is fantastic. They have a Dwarven Mind, which leads me to believe that they're playing an Indomitable Creativity deck here. Okay, 2 red mana. Let's go try to get our Spectral Sailor to stick on the battlefield. It does look like our opponent has an instant speed spell here, though, and they're probably going to use it. Yep, Fire Prophecy on the Mausoleum Wander, or excuse me, on the Spectral Sailor. We had a Supreme Phantom. I think I would rather go for the Wander here. Could be incorrect, but let's say they play an instant or a sorcery on their main phase. Maybe we can counter it with the Wander. They do have like a Fable. It's going to be a bit annoying. And it actually looks like our opponent's just going to concede game 1, which is kind of strange, but it does happen. So let's see here. They're mostly just playing mono red. Maybe the Ether Gust. Or even the Mystical Dispute. I really do get a feeling that they have blue maybe in their deck. It's kind of odd. Brazen Borrow bounces a token. Let's bring in the Fading Hopes. Cut a Sailor. Cut a Slip Out the Back. Maybe. No, it gets kind of hard to especially when we don't know what we're playing up against. Let's try this. We're on the draw. Yeah, let's try something like this. I think I still like having the 3 slip out the backs in case they do have like some targeted removal. Like we know that they have Fire Prophecy, so it's more than likely that they have other burn spells in their deck. Gonna be on the draw. This is not a hand that we can keep. We only have 1 mana. And I think I can keep this even though, you know, we have 1 land again. I think it's okay. Like we have some cards that we can play, some things we can do. So let's try to get the Spectral Sailor down. Maybe it sticks. If it does, we'll be able to get a Curious Obsession on it. So let's see if our opponent has something here. It doesn't look like they do. And let's try to get this Curious Obsession here on the Spectral Sailor and start the beats. Just coming for 2. We'll get to redraw a card here, which is pretty good. And we'll pass it back. We got this slight snare up, so we're able to counterspell, removal spell, potentially that they play. Could depend on what it is as well, but right now things are looking pretty decent. Really looking to draw another land so we can kind of just keep most of our other spells going. And I actually do think we'll snare this, even though it's not a removal spell. Like, I kind of hate wasting essentially a protection spell on a card like that, but I think that's okay. Let's go ahead and redraw a card here. We do hit a Mausoleum Wanderer, which is fantastic. It gives us an extra option here for counterspell. We're going to pass it back. Instead of playing the Ascendant Spirit, I would rather hold up this Brazen Borrow in case we do see another permanent come down that we'll be able to tempo out here. So let's see, do we just want to Geistlight snare that? Or we could also Brazen Borrower the token. I think that we can let this resolve. It's tough. No, let's... snare is fine. This is kind of like a sketchy situation. I think we let it resolve and we bounce the token. So that way they don't have a card that's doing something. Play Shacklegeist and hold up the Geistlight snare. Shacklegeist, hold up the Geistlight snare. Brazen plus the Geistlight snare. We're only really coming in for 1 more damage. Let's attack, see what we draw first. Faceless Haven's pretty decent. I think I'm okay Brazen Borrowing and Geistlight snaring. I feel like that's alright. They do get a little bit of some filtering here, which is the biggest problem about Fable being on the battlefield, but at the end of the day, I still don't think it's like that crazy. And our opponent's just going to pass. I think I'm just going to go for the Brazen Borrower here. Let's see if they have a response for us. They are playing blue. It's the Jeskai version. Ooh, so they are able to pay for this. Let's Geistlight Snare. See if they do pay for it, and then we have Mausoleum Wanderer. Yep, we can just Mausoleum Wanderer that. And that gets countered. We'll get the Brazen Borrow down on the battlefield. And I think that this is fine to kind of just come in with the most amount of pressure here. Let's say we draw like a 2-mana spell. We can still cast it with the Faceless Haven. Alright, we don't anyways. I think that we pass the turn back, holding this Brazen Borrower. The Petty Theft, excuse me. We still have three threats on the battlefield that finish the game. So we're really hoping that there's no board wipe. Even if there is, we still have Faceless Haven on the battlefield. Opponent does have to play their land tapped. And they're going to try to do Indomitable Creativity, but we do have the Brazen Borrow here that we kept up for them. So it does look like that's going to go ahead and just be GG's here. We'll just come in with the Flyers and go ahead and take that match down. Here for the post-game wrap. So we ended up getting a few games in with the deck. Ended up with a 2-2 record. Kind of got to showcase a lot of the strengths of what the deck can do and potentially some of the weaknesses of the deck. Specifically, this deck outside of the Curious Obsession doesn't really have like a card advantage, which is why I really like the Cemetery Illuminators, because it kind of keeps some card flow going to a certain degree. So a lot of the time you could either get mana flooded or get mana screwed, and you'll there's also like a certain point in the games where maybe like you're just holding on to your counter spells and you're trying to figure out whether or not it's better to like play your creatures down, so on and so forth. So I think that there's a lot of decision making overall in this deck that ends up making or breaking whether or not this deck is like strong for you, because a lot of different people could try to take this deck on a ladder, and it might seem kind of obvious to maybe like just play some of your creatures out, but then you find yourself in situations where it's almost just better to play at flash speed as much as you can with the deck, so that way you're getting more information and potentially being able to kind of stop what your opponent's doing, especially if you have like the lofty denials, the snares, anything like that. But overall, I think this is a great strategy. Like I said, you definitely can take it onto the ladder and take it to any tournament. Speaking of tournaments, we do have 3 tournaments a month, starting with our standard event this coming Sunday on August 7th, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Free to play with cash prizes, so definitely get in on that. You can find the links to my content and the links to all the tournaments that we host down below in the description. And I hope that you stay cheesy.